My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kesmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. This afternoon, former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta placed in U.S. detention as Ghana pushes for his extradition. Also coming up, President John Mahama condemns assault on class media journalists by some personnel of the Ghana National Fire Service and reveals the culprits have been identified and interdicted. And much later on the program, Ghana Tertiary Education Commission GTEC withdraws recognition of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana with immediate effect. We have all the details for you. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, Ghana's former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is currently in the custody of the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE, following concerns over his immigration status, his lawyers have disclosed. In a statement released on Wednesday, the 7th of January 2026, that's yesterday, the law firm Minkapremo Osebonsu Bruce Kathleen and Partners said the action by ICE is strictly related to the conditions of Mr. Ofori-Atta's stay in the United States. The statement said that his American legal team is engaging with immigration officials and expects the matter to be resolved expeditiously. Mr. Ofori-Atta has been in the United States since January 2025. A stay, he says, was necessitated by medical treatment. His continued presence there, however, comes against the backdrop of ongoing legal proceedings in Ghana. Ghana's Office of the Special Prosecutor, through the Attorney General, has formally requested his extradition from the United States to return and face justice in his home country. Meanwhile, legal experts say Mr. Ofori-Atta's detention alone does not automatically guarantee his extradition to Ghana. Private legal practitioner Martin Pegbu explains.
It's a small good step. You know, in law, you can be in custody, but the journey to take for them to release him to us is a very complex one, the extradition one. I'm afraid if we are using extradition, it will be too soon to have good news, because they are going to go to court. That's going to be a very bloody battle. Ofori-Atta doesn't look like he wants to come, without a fight. So the court processes, etc., are going to take us years. So it's not an easy fight, unless at any point in time, he finally throws in the towel and says he wants to come. But if he doesn't want to come and he wants us to go through due process to bring him, it's not 1 or 2 or 3 months matter. Even the date they will appear in court, like to start the case itself, it will take months. They just don't start like that. In America, there are long queues. You know, sometimes in Ghana, we make opinions and it looks like we are the only people who don't get corrupt people jailed in 5 months, 2 months, etc. In America, there's a queue. For your case, you can be arrested today, but the case will not be heard immediately.
Mr. Pegbu further argues that former President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo should prevail on Mr. Ofori-Atta to voluntarily return to Ghana.
What I anticipate is a long, drawn-out, bloody battle in court, yes. Because he's going to fight tooth and nail. He's going to fight tooth and nail. So far, based on the strictures, based on the tricks he has shown, he says he will come today, he doesn't come, and all the stories. I was going to do surgery. He said he was going to do surgery. The surgery didn't come on, and he never informed the special prosecutor and never came to Ghana, etc. If we use those facts to analyze, then he's going to fight it in court. He's not going to just throw in the towel. But I always mention that at any point in time, maybe when Akufo-Addo and co prevail upon him, because, Ghanaians are also asking Akufo-Addo that, what is he saying about his cousin not coming? So now that Akufo-Addo's brother is facing 5 corruption cases, it's time for Akufo-Addo to step in and ask him to come, because Akufo-Addo, we kept complaining that Ofori-Atta is corrupt. Ofori-Atta is corrupt, and Akufo-Addo kept denying that nobody in his government was corrupt. So now we have it. So Akufo-Addo has to prevail upon him. So If they prevail upon him, yes, early good news. But if we say we should use law, no, I don't see this happening in less than 9 months.
And you had the private legal practitioner Martin Kwegbu. Now, as the legal process unfolds, attention is now turning to the broader anti-corruption implications of the case. I'm joined on the line now by Adam Senano, co-chair, Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for having me.
Does Ken Ofori-Atta's detention in the U.S. signal progress in the fight against corruption, and in this case, high-level corruption, or perhaps it's too early to draw that conclusion?
No, I think that, if this is ICE really have no, their mandate is not really an issue of corruption. They are just going around anybody they think you are not legitimately in the jurisprudence, that jurisdiction rather, they pick you up, and they are not known to respect human rights. A couple of hours ago, somebody had been shot, so one of the mayors was angry, instructing all ICE agents to leave his space. So this is not necessarily connected to anti-corruption. Simply, are his papers valid for him to still be there? And ICE can throw you out. They can send you back to your country within hours of you being picked up. So how that ends is something that will be unrolled as we go ahead.
Indeed, but the question, this whole thing is falling within the processes that have started in Ghana, the collaborations with the U.S. and the pressure for the government to ensure that whatever conversations are going on with the U.S., it leads to Ken Ofori-Atta being brought back to the country. What message does this send to the public, or to public officials really, who have leave the country while under investigation?
Well, if ICE does what they've done typically with other people, it means that Ken might end up back in Ghana faster than he thought. And definitely, he would then have to face the full rigors of the law. That would be, it would be, as far as I'm concerned, a good outcome, because many of us don't understand why he would not voluntarily even choose just to come back. You have been entrusted at some point in this country with one of the biggest sectors. There are questions that have arisen. Leadership must go with accountability. And so anybody in Ghana who is thinking that, look, we'll lead, we'll make money, we'll do what we want and we'll get away with it, the wheels of justice may grind slowly, but grind they do. At some point, you will have to answer for any actions you took. So I don't think that public officers should think that they can get away with actions that do not promote the public good.
How do you see the government taking advantage of this? Because already people think that, okay, this is a good opening for the government to do whatever it was doing, kind of double it, just so that they're able to get Ken Ofori-Atta back in Ghana.
I'm not quite sure this is one of the scenarios where government can talk to ICE and then say, oh, you know what, yes, we want that man, so bring him. They seem to be out of control. They do just what they want. If it were the court processes and you had to try and bring some pressure and say that's a different thing. But ICE seems to be a U.S.-based focused entity. They have their own interests. At the end of the day, if like they normally do, they repatriate him and send him here, definitely it will grant us the opportunity to have him open his defense and answer the questions we are all expecting that he ought to answer. And that will certainly move the fight against corruption forward.
Again, and that's my last question to you, it goes to emphasize a number of issues that people had. Do you think that until ICE came in, Ghanaian authorities had really done enough to show seriousness when it comes to this issue?
Well, yes, I think so. I think that if you've watched what transpired over the last 3 months or so, first of all, the Office of the Special Prosecutor said that in June, when we were expecting him, soon after that, they did a raid on SML and discovered additional data, which they knew would then mean additional charges. It took them about 3 months to analyze the data. I hear they had to get special equipment to do that analysis and special skill sets. And that led to the additional charges, updating the charge sheet, and the extradition request was done jointly with the AGs. That has been filed, and we know that the court processes have started. I think that this is not a very simple issue, as the experts will tell you. At the end of the day, they needed to make sure that whatever charges they made, they could draw a direct connection between the evidence and the persons involved. And that's what took some time. In my view, I think that the agencies that have acted on this have acted in the best interest of this country.
Mr. Senano, thank you so much for speaking to us.
And thank you too for having me.
And you had Adam Senano. He is co-chair Citizens Movement Against Corruption, sharing his thoughts on this. We stay a bit longer on it because civil society organization Arise Ghana just yesterday called on security apparatus to intensify efforts to get Ken Ofori-Atta extradited to face justice. The group further threatened to picket the Ghanaian embassy in the US to press home their demands. Prince Derek Ajay is the spokesperson for Arise Ghana.
Oral is Operation Recover all the loot and not some of the loot. And so we would want all the loot to be recovered. But we've listened to the Ghanaian people. We continue to listen to the Ghanaian people. So you will join us when we go to the American embassy, for example, to picket the American embassy to allow Ken to come back and face justice, just like they want some heads of state in some countries to face justice in America.
Their accountability is essential to restoring public trust and deterring future misconduct. And therefore, Arise Ghana joins the call for the immediate arrest and extradition of Ken Ofori-Atta to Ghana to face justice.
And I had the representatives of Arise Ghana sharing their thoughts as well on the Ken Ofori-Atta issue. In other news, President John Mahama has condemned the alleged attack on a Class FM reporter by personnel of the Ghana National Fire Service, describing the incident as unacceptable. The president said the attack reflected troubling lapse in professionalism and called for the immediate reorientation of security service personnel in their interaction with journalists. During a tour of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, President Mahama also revealed that the officers of the Ghana National Fire Service involved in the attack on the Class FM reporter have been identified and interdicted. He said the actions of the officers do not reflect the values expected of security service personnel and called for the urgent need for the immediate reorientation of security personnel, particularly in the engagement with members of the media.
Oh, well, my views on that are no. I'm a journalist by training, and so there's no way we'll countenance, the continued assault on journalists. We've been in touch with the Ghana Journalists Association on these issues. We put them in touch with the security services. We need a reorientation of many of our security personnel to understand that just as they're doing their job of providing peace and safety, journalists are also doing their job of informing the people as to what is happening. So they are not antagonistic to each other. Indeed, they are both serving the same public. Yeah, so we're working on it. But occasionally these things will come up. But when they come, they must be dealt with, as firmly as possible. The Minister of Government Communication has taken it up. I think the officers have been identified, they've been interdicted, and an investigation is ongoing. But we won't countenance assault on journalists here.
Heather, President John Mahama. Komla Kluche is our presidential correspondent. He is with the president on that tour. He joins us live on the line. Komla, if you can tell us more about this media tour by the president and other matters that he spoke about earlier.
Well, it forms part of the president's familiarization visits to the state media houses, including the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Graphic Communications Group, and the Ghanaian Times, Ghana Publishing, excuse me to say. These are the three state media institutions that the president has outlined to pay a visit to. He's just gotten done with the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, and then he's headed for the Graphic Communications Group. Essentially, the issues surrounding the restructuring of the state broadcaster and state media houses of concern, leadership of is, for instance, if you take the issue of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, the Director General, Professor Alassane, indicated that one of the issues they've had to contend with is with the organogram of the state broadcaster. But even more worrying is the issue of some 13.5 million cedis owed to the Electricity Company of Ghana Limited that they have just been able to pay only 5 million. The rest is outstanding. It has been of much concern to them because the IGF that comes to them and the subvention is woefully inadequate. And if we also look at the issue of the civil license fees, which many people are not paying, it's of concern. But the president said, did direct the Minister of Government Communications, Sidis Kwachi, to have a deeper look at this. But the prospect is for him to ring fence the issue of the debt or the legacy debt that GBC owes. This, he believes, would be able to offset them, and then you will have a discussion with the chief of staff to see how best they will be able to deal with it. But it is a familiarization visit, and also to urge them on to continue the work they have been doing, that his government supports everything that they do. He bluntly condemned any attack, whichever shape, form, on any journalist in the country.
Komla, is there any other thing we should expect from the president in this regard?
Not that as we know of here.
Thank you so much. Komla Kluche, he's our presidential correspondent. New Patriotic Party's flag bearer aspirant Dr. Mahama Bawumia has emphasized the need for unity in the party ahead of the January 31 presidential primary. He says the party's presidential primary is a contest to elect the party's candidate and not an avenue to tear the party apart. He also urged delegates and the rank and file of the NPP to exercise restraint in their utterances, which have the tendency of destabilizing the unity of the party. Hundreds of party supporters converged in Salaga to welcome the flag bearer aspirant. Addressing delegates in the Salaga South and North constituencies, Dr. Bawumia called for unity ahead of that contest.
Kukudu. Now, adia ehia MPP mo eye nkabom ye ko 2028 election ye hia nkabom unni nkabom a untimi wini election elentina me pese nyame adom ye won nkabom a ye betimi a wini election no enti media me ye me campaign no nkabom nenti mendidi obi atem min kasantia obia min bo obia din me kyerɛ my dream keke me kan kyerɛ mo ade a metimi aye ade a maye ade a me pese meye na mo ne me ya adwen a na mo ato aba no ama me na yakɔ enti me pese me hye mo nyina bɔ sɛ nyame adom mo de franka ne hye me nsa meka obia abom na yakɔ akɔgye tumi no kogodo.
And you heard the flag bearer aspirant of the NPP, Dr. Mahama Bawumia, asking for support for him to lead the party. Well, on his vision and plans for the party and delegate, Dr. Bawumia also reiterated his commitment to ensuring that the grassroots of the NPP is strengthened and well-resourced.
Enti me pese me de nhihye foforo eba ye party mu. Sa nhihye no me frɛ no data-based welfare system. Data-based welfare system. Sa data-based welfare system no. Ye beji obia asem hia e de ato database no. Ye hwemu a ye behu omo a omo hia ejuma, omo a omo hia loans, omo a omo hia contracts, omo a omo hia tractors, omo a omo pese onya scholarship. Omo amo pese omo ko hajj obia na semhia ebeda ho your party mo you see welfare database system no a obehu say obia ntimi nkoton slots bi.
And you had the flag bearer aspirant of the opposition New Patriotic Party and former Vice President Dr. Mahama Bawumia. Still on politics, a life-size statue has been unveiled in memory of the late flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings at his hometown Keta, Jelukopa in the Volta region. The statue, an initiative spearheaded by a private individual, has been unveiled by the families of the former president, the Anglo State and leadership of the governing National Democratic Congress. There's more in this report.
This is the first statue to be dedicated to the memory of Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, who in his lifetime refused any monument to be built in his honor. Mr. Rawlings, who passed in 2020, left behind an enduring legacy.
My personal knowledge about President Rawlings was that whilst he was alive, he refused to be honored in monuments and effigies. His reason was that he wanted to live in the hearts of people. Now, it's no more. And I understood his position because in ancient Greece, living people were not allowed to be honored because the argument was that you have not finished writing the book of your life. So it is only after your death that the book will be considered as closed.
Born in 1947, the late former head of state emerged onto Ghana's political scene, first as a military ruler in 1979. He would later become Ghana's first president under the Fourth Republic, serving between 1993 to 2001. Speaking at the unveiling ceremony, Dr. Zanetta Rawlings, daughter of Mr. Rawlings, prayed that the monument serves as a true reminder of the ideals he stood for.
It is my prayer that this symbol of who he was will be a reminder of what it means for us to be Ghanaian, because that's all he was. A true, in the ideals of accountability, transparency, of dedication to country, humility and service, and integrity. And if we can all live by those ideals, then that is how we honor his memory. I pray that generations to come will appreciate the value of what it represents, be a part of maintaining it, so that many more others will come to ask questions, hopefully have answers about where we came from, where we are today, and where we hope to be the people.
The ceremony was attended by a host of government officials, the chiefs of Anglo-Duco, and members of the NDC, a party Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings founded. In his address, Dr. Sri Dettet, the Aomefia of the Anglo State, described the statue as a reminder of service, truth, and exemplary leadership, representing the personality of Rawlings. Faisal Abdul Idrisu, TV3 News.
Now, the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTEC, has withdrawn its recognition of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana with immediate effect, citing the continued use of an unlearned doctoral title by the Institute's Chief Executive Officer Eric Ojo-Osai. In a letter dated January 8, 2026, unsigned by the Director General of GTEC, Professor Ahmed Jinapo Abdullahi, the Commission directed that ISAC ceases operations as a recognized institution, declaring that all certificates issued by the institute from that date would be considered unrecognized. GTEC noted that it had previously, in a letter dated 13th October 2025, investigated Mr. Ojo-Osai's academic credentials and found that the doctoral certificate he submitted from the Swiss Management Center and Universidad Central de Nicaragua were invalid and unrecognized under Ghana's tertiary education framework. Tree News has made efforts to reach out to Mr. Eric Ojo-Osai for his response. When we do get him, we'll bring you that response in our subsequent bulletins. Now, opioid use is becoming an increasing problem in Ghana and across West Africa. Ghana's Upper West region is witnessing a disturbing trend in which youth and other vulnerable populations are falling victim to cheap, addictive, and often deadly drugs. Ibrahim Wangara has the rest of the story.
There is growing concern about the resurgence of the misuse of illicit substances such as tramadol and other lesser known yet extremely harmful drugs among youth in the Upper West region. This abuse poses serious health and educational challenges in the country. It's on this backdrop that various stakeholders, including the Regional Youth Parliament, Jamaican Youth, and the Muslim Intellectuals Network, embark on several campaigns on the issue. Dr. Saeed Mumin is a member of the Regional Anti-Drug Task Force and spokesperson for Muslims Intellectuals Network.
The supply side of drugs, I mean illegal drugs, should be cut. And so it's basic economics that when consumers are demanding and suppliers are not supplying, then there is a tendency that consumers will stop what? Demanding. And so if consumers of drug abuse are demanding drugs and then the suppliers are nowhere to supply, it means that at a point we'll be hitting a crossroad.
The Deputy Upper West Regional Chief Imam of the Al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Aswaj, Sheikh Ahmed Yaqub Siddiq, is calling on law enforcement agencies to consider punishing parents of victims due to their negligence, emphasizing the need for accountability.
What is their responsibility towards these children? I think that is a major concern I ask myself. So and I believe that any time they arrest anyone of their child, they shouldn't release them until they get their parents. When they get their parents, they should rather punish the parents instead of the child, even though the problem cannot solve. But you are the cause of the problem, not the problem itself. So the parents are not doing their work.
Meanwhile, the principal regulatory officer at the Upper West Regional Branch of the Food and Drugs Authority, Shamir Al-Hassan Mohammed, notes that while tramadol has been a major concern, other substances like cough syrups and codeine are also causing significant harm in communities.
So it's a very serious issue in Upper West. And it will be better we all come together to combat it, because the consequences will die for each and every one of us in the near future. Okay, if you are talking of drugs, we have tramadol is one of them, codeine, we have pethidine, morphine. These are all part of the drugs that people abuse.
And that report was filed by Ibrahim Wangara, Upper West Regional Correspondent. And that's it for the Midday News here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Log on to shrenews.com for more news. Have a good afternoon.
Much later, SSNIT set to announce annual pension indexation following 12% increase in monthly pension payments effective January 2025. I am Michael Obodu. Details of these and many other stories coming up shortly. Please stay. Right now, and the Ghana reference rate, a key benchmark used by commercial banks to price loans, has declined marginally for January 2026, signaling a gradual easing in borrowing costs and improved macroeconomic indicators. There is more in the following 3 Business News Desk report.
The Ghana reference rate, or GRR, has dipped slightly for January 2026, offering modest relief to borrowers across the economy. Data from the Ghana Association of Banks shows the benchmark rate has fallen from 15.9% in December 2025 to 15.68% effective January 7. The marginal decline was driven by improvements in key indicators used in computing the rate, including the monetary policy rate, treasury bill yields, and interbank market rates. Some commercial banks also point to easing inflation and lower short-term government borrowing rates as contributing factors. The reduction follows a broader downward trend in the GRR over the past year. From levels above 29% in early 2025, the rate steadily declined, supported by a 350 basis point cut in the monetary policy rate in December and falling money market yields. The latest adjustment means new loans contracted from December are likely to attract slightly lower interest rates, though fixed-rate borrowers will not be affected. Variable-rate customers may see minor changes depending on individual bank pricing models. The Bank of Ghana says average lending rates have already declined, reflecting a gradually easing credit environment, even as businesses continue to grapple with tight liquidity conditions.
Now, the secondary bond market liquidity eased at the start of 2026, with turnover declining 42.04% week-on-week to 1.59 billion cedis. Trading activities was concentrated on the February 2027 and February 2030 benchmarks, which recorded volumes of 522.74 million Ghana cedis and 539.96 million Ghana cedis respectively, anchoring price discovery. Investor positioning stayed skewed towards the 2027-2030 bucket, which accounted for 75.2% of volumes and traded at an weighted average yield of 14.96%. Now, away from that, the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SSNIT, is expected to announce its annual pension indexation later today. This follows an earlier decision to increase monthly pensions payments by 12% effective January 2025. The following 3 Business News Desk report has more. The adjustment was made in consultation with the National Pensions Regulatory Authority (NPRA) and in line with Section 80 of the National Pensions Act 2008, Act 766. All pensioners on the SSNIT payroll as of December 2024 have seen their monthly benefits rise by an average of 12%. The increment comprises a fixed rate of 8% plus a flat amount of 72.58 Ghana cedis, representing the remaining 4% redistributed across beneficiaries. As a result, the lowest paid pensioner now receives 396.58 Ghana cedis, a 32.19% increase above the 2024 minimum payment. At the upper end, the highest earning pensioner under PNDCL 247 and Act 766 will receive 201,792.37 Ghana cedis and 28,703 Ghana cedis per month, respectively. SSNIT says the upward adjustment is intended to preserve the real value of pensions and help beneficiaries cope with economic pressures. The move comes against a backdrop of high inflation and depreciation of the local currency. Analysts and pensioners are closely watching today's announcement to assess its impact on household income and the wider economy, especially after the significant improvement in the macroeconomic situation in the country. Now, that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Away from that, the Asantehene Otumfuo II has cautioned against premature celebration of the recent stability of the cedi, urging the Bank of Ghana and the nation to sustain economic discipline to secure lasting recovery. He said the early signs of progress must be carefully protected to ensure the gains translate into long-term economic stability and improved livelihoods for Ghanaians. He made the call during a royal visit to the governor and management of the central bank at the Bank Square in Accra.
You are responsible for the national currency, and you are also responsible for fixing the interests that determine the rate at which we can borrow money. Sure. It is a fact of history that when the currency is healthy, the economy bristles with opportunities. The people are able to use the opportunities to create business. The business allows the people to create jobs and ultimately work in wealth. When the cedi wobbles, even the tsunami can be less destructive. Sure. Over the past year, after a difficult period, we have begun to breathe easy as the cedi stabilizes on the foreign exchange market. Sure. We recognize these are only the early stools of progress, and one will do well to be careful not to start feasting, as the governor said, before the true state of the harvest is known.
The Ghana of
And you heard the voice of the Asantehene Otumfuo II, bringing an end to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please visit our website at 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obudu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe.